Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and NBA. Before I get started with Week 13 and my picks for Week 13 of the NFL, I appreciate all of you drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never ever seen any of my NFL or NBA videos, the only thing you have to do to be a part of the DFS community, ladies and gentlemen, is basically just subscribe down below. Make sure you put on that bell icon, turn that on so this way you don't miss out anytime I post up a new NFL or NBA lineup advice video. All right. Week 13 of the NFL is here. Before I get started, those viewers of mine that are watching the NFL video and they basically get that NBA video, I apologize. Today I will not be doing an NBA video. It happens to be my youngest daughter's 11th birthday. I live in Long Island, New York, so I plan myself, my wife, and the rest of the kids, we're going to go out to New York City to check out Rockefeller Center. So today I am very sorry, but I will not be doing an NBA video. I will be involved in the slate, so you can always reach me out on a Slack chat later on during the day. I'll have my notifications on, so if somebody asks a question and you want me to help you out with anything, I'll be more than happy to help you out the best way I can when I do see the message. I will probably be back home on time to at least maybe go over the slate and be able to play some NBA myself today, but I will not be doing an NBA video. So again, I will do the NBA video for tomorrow. I'll come back. I normally take Sundays off, so I'll do an NBA video for you guys tomorrow. So again, I apologize, but you have to have these family days, and I definitely want her to have a great day. So all right, back to NFL. Okay, so NFL Week 13, man, let's get right to it. As you know, the guys, you ladies and gentlemen, have been checking me out since the beginning of the year. I've changed things up a little bit and just basically been giving you my top picks for the week, just due to the fact that it's just a little bit quicker for me, and at the same time it's because I'm just so consumed with the NBA, pretty much doing an NBA video every day, and I have a full-time job, and of course a young family. It is very, very difficult to get it all in, and I'm a one-man show, so I don't want to just keep telling you the same thing. But if you're first time here, that's basically where I'm at. But this week at quarterback, man, again, at quarterback this week, I definitely like Mr. Russell Wilson. Okay, I'm going to Russell Wilson this week. It's the first time, and now for people, friends and family that know me, they know I love Russell Wilson. I haven't named him thus far this year yet as one of the quarterbacks, but I think this week he's in a very, very good matchup. Russell Wilson, man, 230 yards per game, 25 touchdowns, 19.5 fantasy points per game. He's 7,700 here on Fanduel. On DK, he is 6,300. Of course, I also play on DK for those who do not know. So just keep that in mind. He's available in both platforms, and I definitely like him in both platforms. 7 straight games for him, man, and multiple TDs. That is the thing that really has intrigued me about Russell Wilson. And, of course, he can hurt you with his feet. As you can see here, he has done very, very good with his feet. In the stretch of, in the span of the last couple of games, as you can see here, man, he's rushed for 30 rushes, 197 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Just in this little span here of about 4 or 5 games. He has 19-plus fantasy points in 6 out of his last 7 games. That's also impressive. He is obviously trending upward. And when you look at him as far as in the red zone passing, he's done very well there as well. In the red zone, he's 29 of 46, 60% completion percentage, 250 yards, 18 touchdowns in the red zone, only 1 interception. So he's been exceptional there. Inside the 10, 13 of 23, 68 yards, 9 TDs. He has been fantastic. So you figure in the 20-yard line, he's gotten 9 from the inside the 20, and 9 out of his 18 have come from inside the 10. So he's been efficient both inside the 20 as well as inside the 10. So in the red zone, he has done very, very well. Again, he's just been playing really well. And he's a great matchup this week going up against San Francisco. San Francisco 17th in passing defense. They're allowing 248 yards per game. They have allowed 23 touchdowns to opposing offenses. 4th most TDs allowed in the NFL. They're tied with a few other teams, but that's the 4th most touchdowns. They allowed in the last few weeks 54 points to opposing offenses in the last 2 games, and they are 10th in fantasy points per game allowed thus far this year, allowing 21 DK and 19.9, pretty much round that off to 20 Fanduel fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And, of course, the most important thing, they have not faced a guy like Russell Wilson. They only have faced 1 mobile quarterback all year long that is as dangerous as Russell Wilson, and maybe not even so much so because of the offense he has, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And that was back on week 3. So definitely some difficulty for San Francisco this week. In the red zone, San Fran, 59.5% of the time, the opposing offenses have scored a touchdown when they have gone to the red zone. Opposing offenses have been there 3.5 opportunities per game, and they are averaging 2 TDs. On the flip side of that, offensively, the offensive red zone for Seattle are averaging 66.6% conversion ratio in the red zone. 3.5 opportunities a game. They've been able to get in there, and they've been able to put in 2 touchdowns per game every time they've gone in the red zone. So not a bad matchup. Good position for Russell Wilson to do very well. Again, I think Russell Wilson is my stud quarterback and the quarterback that I have in play this week. You're definitely going to have some correlation with him and one of his players. Obviously, if you're not on the running back or one of the receivers, you'll be on the tight end. I am going to be with him as far as his teammates. He will have one of his receivers this week. We're going to go over to running back. At running back this week, I just love Christian McCaffrey. Now, first thing, before we go on any further, obviously we heard the terrible news of Kareem Hunt. And me as a fan and me as a former athlete that I played several sports throughout my youth, it's devastating to know that these kids, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but I just really wanted to get it off my chest a little bit. It definitely hurts me to know that these young men don't realize that you are such a big platform, such a great opportunity. It's a privilege to play professional sports for a living, and you guys don't respect the sport enough to know that by now at your age, 23 years old, that you know that you shouldn't be out there goofing around, having parties, doing whatever it is. And this goes for everybody, because we all know, if you watch enough sports, this is happening in all the sports, all the team sports, individual sports, the PED situations, guys hitting women, people partying, going to clubs and doing the wrong thing. This is all got to stop, guys. You're professional athletes, people look up to you. There's a lot of youth, a lot of young players are looking up to their favorite athletes. Your role models, they need to stop this. It just really has to stop. Granted, the video I saw of Mr. Hunt, nothing. I mean, I've seen worse guys beating up people. I mean, it's nonetheless, man, you have to understand, bro, you're not supposed to be hitting women, man. It's just not going to happen. And nowadays with social media, with people having smartphones, you just cannot go around hitting people, getting into fights, hitting women especially. It's a no-no. It's something that we just, in today's society in today's society, it's just not allowed. This is not the 50s and 40s or the 1900s where you could just beat up your women or have 4 or 5 wives and so on and so forth, or have all kind of mistresses or whatever the case may be. Time has changed. You're a professional athlete. Please conduct yourself like one. So I don't feel bad for Kareem Hunt, because, hey, he should have known better. But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand, you athletes out there, got to stop. The younger kids, hopefully they see this. Remember, if you're playing professional, you want to inspire to be a professional athlete, you're definitely going to have to do better than going out there and doing things that you shouldn't be doing when you're a professional athlete. So again, I mean, I'm not telling anybody that they should not be out there having fun and enjoying their lives, but when you're a professional athlete and you're in the limelight and people look up to you and you're a star player, I mean, see, Kansas City, I give them a lot of credit. First things first, the kid lied to the organization, so obviously that's the reason why they released him. He should have told the truth when they asked him back about the incident back in February, but again, it is what it is. The bottom line is, I'm all for what Kansas City did. It's just a shame that a good athlete like this is going to be put in a position now where he is now labeled as a women beater or a women hitter. And most importantly, that just doesn't go well with any professional organizations. So he may possibly have lost out on his entire career. So just a shame. Again, it is what it is. Well, so let's move on. All right. At running back this week, I'm loving Mr. Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey in great position here, 8,800, both on DK and on Fanduel. And he has been just absolutely just going nuts as of late. And he's everything that Carolina obviously expected from him when they drafted him. Dual threat back, can hurt you with his hands and his feet. 68.8 yards per game, pretty much 69 yards per game, 10 touchdowns, 21 fantasy points, because I got to round that off here. And he's been just absolutely going nuts. 3 out of his last 4 games, 30-plus fantasy points. 41 spot as well in last week's game. 237 total yards last week in that game. He had 2 touchdowns, 125 yards rushing, and 112 yards receiving. As you can see, he had 28 total touches last week. He has 18-plus touches per game over the last 5 games, with 5 TDs over that same span of 5 games. So he's been absolutely wonderful. 2 30-point games and a 40 over the last 3 out of the 4 games. That is ridiculous. He has just absolutely just been tearing it up. His home and away splits have been pretty good. Away stats, 43.2 yards per game, 1 TD, 38 receptions, 317 yards, 63 yards per game, 2 TDs. Inside, he's also done fairly well in the red zone. Inside the 20, 32 rushes, 85 yards for 5 touchdowns. Inside the 10, 21 rushes, 30 yards, and 4 TDs. He's been absolutely, really been truly good. And, you know, he's just in a very, very good spot here. Again, Tampa Bay has been up and down. They're in the middle of the tier as far as in the league, as far as rushing defense. They're 18th in rushing defense. They have allowed 116.7 yards per game, 14 touchdowns. The 14 touchdowns is the 3rd most touchdowns allowed by a defense against opposing offensive rushing offenses. They're also giving up 4.7 yards per rush. They are 6th in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. So they have done fairly well in holding down running backs as far as fantasy points. They have given up 30 DK and 25.9, pretty much 26 Fanduel fantasy points per game. But again, that is above what they normally give to, considering Christian McCaffrey. As you can see, he's averaging 21. So it's right there in his wheelhouse to get at least 21 or better in this game. In the red zone, Tampa Bay defense is the worst in the NFL, dead last. They've given up 86.8% of the time the opposing offenses have hit the red zone, they have scored a touchdown. 3.5 opportunities they've been given up per game, and the opposing offenses have been getting in 3 touchdowns per game. So 3.5 opportunities, 3 touchdowns. That is horrific. So definitely a good situation there for the Carolina Panthers. Panthers offense, as far as red zone offense, 68.2% of the time they convert a touchdown. They get 3.5 opportunities a game as well, but they're only getting in 2 touchdowns and a field goal. 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So they need to definitely get in. Every opportunity they get against Tampa Bay in the red zone, they're going to have an opportunity to get in there. When you have Greg Olsen, who's well targeted in the red zone, Cam Newton usually targets his own self in the red zone. And now you got Christian McCaffrey after finally several weeks where he was not getting opportunities in the red zone. Now all of a sudden in the last 3 or 4 weeks, that has picked up for him. So I definitely like Christian McCaffrey here. I think he is a fine play at running back. You also got to take into consideration, well, the whole situation with Kareem Hunt out. You're going to have to, and I will have some exposure to Spencer Ware. That offense is going to have to continue. I do believe that Tyreek Hill, as well as others on that team, are going to get more exposure and more opportunity than they already are. And I can also see Patrick Mahomes taking advantage of that as well. If he needs to run with the ball, he would do that. But Spencer Ware is going to get his opportunity here, and he's capable of being a pretty decent dual threat back. So I would say if you're not on Christian McCaffrey, definitely as far as value is concerned, because of the Kareem Hunt situation, you definitely should have some exposure to Spencer Ware. So definitely keep that in mind. All right, at receiver, I do have correlation for Russell Wilson. I'm not going to basically go over that individual player. I am going to have exposure to Mr. Lockett for Seattle, so I'm going to correlate Russell Wilson with Lockett. You could also go with Moore, as well. But as far as for the video is concerned, I want to give you guys another great opportunity. And I think at wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, in the situation where he's in now, where this team offensively is very, very good and is even better with Kareem Hunt. Now with no Kareem Hunt, I think it's going to elevate Tyreek Hill and Connolly and some of the others to definitely produce, considering that Watkins, I think, is out this week. So Tyreek Hill is coming in here. 100 yards per game, 11 touchdowns, 20.3 fantasy points per game, 8,400 is his price tag here. He is priced up on DK to 9,100. Again, I don't advise you to play him. Maybe stay with Lockett or someone else on DK. 9,100 is pretty steep, but I do see where there's going to be possibly an opportunity for him to get a little bit more usage out of him. 17 yards. He is averaging per reception. The last 2 weeks just been lights out. In the last 2 weeks, 24 targets, 17 receptions, over 300 plus receiving yards with 4 touchdowns. He has been truly on fire, smashing fantasy point totals, 29 plus in the last 2 weeks, as you can see here, which is way above his average. He has 3 straight 35 plus games. And with the release now, like I said, of Kareem Hunt, I can see him getting more opportunities even out of the backfield, because we know he has done a number of end arounds and tosses and really been in the slot and has come in and actually has run some balls in the past as well. So I can see him doing a little bit of that. He has been more dangerous on the road. His home and away splits are pretty good, as considering they are on the road going over to Oakland. 42 receptions thus far this year, 739 yards, 17.6 yards per reception, 123 yards per game with 8 touchdowns. He's averaging 30 fantasy points per game on the road this year, way more than he has done at home. So he should be just fantastic on the road here going into Oakland. Inside the red zone, he's had opportunities as well. He has come in here with 9 receptions, 45 yards, and 5 TDs. And inside the 10, he has had 4 receptions for 6 yards and 3 TDs. So inside the 20, 8 total touchdowns, 5 of them inside the 20, and 3 of them inside the 10. He's going up against Oakland. Oakland is 15th in pass defense, which is not too bad, middle of the pack in the league, allowing 239 yards per game, 8.8 yards per reception. 25 TDs allowed to the opposing offenses. That's tied for second most touchdowns allowed in the NFL. So definitely not a good spot for Oakland here going up against this offense. And with one less powerhouse now, is going to just give Patrick Mahomes more opportunity to be able to seek his favorite receiver, Mr. Hill. Versus receivers, they are 8th as far as allowing yardages per game, 244.5 yards per game. 2 receivers this year, of course, the 25 TDs. Also coughing up 13.9 yards per reception. And then we have a gentleman here who's averaging 17 yards per catch. So definitely in his wheelhouse to actually be able to get his norm 17 yards per reception. Fantasy points thus far versus receivers, 24th in the NFL as far as fantasy points per game allowed to wide receivers, allowing 34 DK and 29 Fanduel fantasy points per game to receivers. In the red zone, the red zone defense for Oakland, they're 10th in the red zone defense. 54% of the time, the offense has scored a touchdown on them. They have averaging 3.5 opportunities per game, and they're just scoring 2 TDs. So they have not faced Kansas City as of yet in this offense. Obviously, granted, no Kareem Hunt. I think they'll still be able to manage and survive and be able to do well with Mr. Ware, but we're going to see if they're going to be able to hold them down to just 3.5 opportunities. And they have been coughing up 2 TDs. Kansas City red zone offense is 3rd best in the NFL. 71.4% of the time they're in the red zone, they score a touchdown. So, and they get 4.5 opportunities per game, and they've been averaging 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Again, I like Mr. Tyreek Hill here, and I also think that his usage is going to go slightly a little bit more up, more of a bump there, just due to the fact that there is no Kareem Hunt this week. So I'm sure the game plan is going to definitely be on finding how we can get Mr. Hill more opportunities with the football. All right. At tight end this week, I'm going to come down, man. You know, Indianapolis, Eric Ebron. Andrew Luck loves going to Ebron. He loves going to Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle is out, and I just see where there's going to be even more opportunity for Eric Ebron here. Eric Ebron is 5,600 here on FanDuel. He's 4,200 on DK. Definitely very reasonably priced on both platforms. He's averaging 46 yards per game. 11 touchdowns for a tight end is absolutely fantastic. 13.2 fantasy points per game. That's absolutely fantastic as well. All right. He was targeted 7 times last week, had 5 receptions for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. And 3 weeks ago, he played against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're facing them again for a second time. He only had 3 targets, but he was 100% complete catch percentage. He got all 3 for 69 whopping yards and 2 touchdowns. He put up a 26 spot against them just 3 weeks ago. And now there's no Jack. And this is with Jack Doyle in the lineup. And Jack Doyle did get also 3 receptions in that game with 3 targets. So we know that Andrew Luck loves going to the tight ends. And these guys get overly used. They get more usage, especially in the red zone. Okay. So where we stand here, last 2 games he has played. Last 2 games that he has played, as you can see, he didn't play in this game here against Tennessee, 19 and 26 respectively. So he's been on fire. Plus, he played, of course, like I said, against Jacksonville 3 weeks ago. He put up 26.6. His home and away splits, away, he has been better than at home. 5 games on the road this year, 24 receptions, 272 yards, 11.3 yards per reception, 5 TDs. He's averaging 16.8. You round that off to about 17 fantasy points per game on the road. 17. That's above his average. So he's done very well on the road, and I can see where he's going to be targeted a little bit more, especially in the red zone if they get in there. And we know Indianapolis is going to move the ball. Jacksonville has been struggling as of late as far as keeping offenses away from the end zone. They've given up a whopping bunch of points per week to opposing offenses. In the red zone, Ebron is sixth in the NFL. He is actually ahead of Zach Ertz and Travis Kelce. Both are 7th and 9th respectively, and he is 6th as far as overall receiving in the red zone. 10 receptions in the red zone inside the 20, 112 yards, 9 TDs. And then when he's inside the 10, he has had 3 receptions for 13 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 6 out of his 9 have been inside the 20, and the other 3 remaining out of his total 9 have come inside the 10. So he's efficient, and he's definitely being targeted inside the 10 as well as inside the 20. I definitely love him here. I think he's going to get a bump in touches. If he gets 6 or 7 touches or better, as you can see here, when there was no Jack Doyle, he went 3 weeks where he had 11, 10, and 15 targets. I can see that happening, man. I can see it happening in this matchup. All right. He's going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is 3rd in the NFL in pass defense. They actually are fairly good in that area, but they have been struggling as of late. And I'm basing this also on the fact that they have already played this team before, and they gave up 285 yards to Andrew Luck in the Colts offense just 3 weeks ago with 3 touchdowns thrown by Andrew Luck. And, of course, one of those 3 touchdowns were to Eric Ebron. He did run one in for another touchdown. So, again, 2 touchdowns to Ebron versus tight ends. 16th in the NFL as far as fantasy points per game allowed to tight ends. They have given up 12.5 DK and 10.5 Fanduel. And we have a gentleman here who's averaging 13. So, again, the numbers look pretty good. There's an opportunity there for him to get his average of 13 or better. I could see it happening. All right. Red zone opportunities, red zone defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 13th in the NFL in defense in the red zone. Opponents have been getting in there 58% of the time. They have scored a touchdown. They have had 2.5 opportunities per game and scoring 1 touchdown and a field goal against the Jaguars. As far as Indy in the red zone, there are 68.8% of the time they convert a opportunity into a touchdown. 4th in red zone, in the red zone, 4 opportunities per game and scoring 2 TDs and a field goal. So again, they get in the end zone. They get in the red zone quite often. 4 times in the end zone per game. That's 4 opportunities to get touchdowns, and they're coming away with 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And this guy gets targeted quite a bit in the red zone. If they get in there at least 3 or 4 times this week, which I believe they can, I could see Eric Ebron getting in a touchdown, maybe even 2 this week. So Eric Ebron is my tight end. And as far as defense, man, I'm not going to go crazy about the defense. There's nothing to go on. Look, Chicago Bears are the best defense this week. They have the most favorable matchup. They're going up against the Giants. Last week I told you guys Tennessee. I gave you all the numbers. It looked like it was all good. This with the defenses, man, it's like Russian roulette with these defenses every week, to be totally honest with you. I can crank out and look at every possible mismatch as far as efficiency, how well they convert in the red zone, so on and so forth, and it still comes down to that whoever's playing the best football this late, coming into the later stretches of the year, is going to be the better defense. Chicago going up against the Giants. Eli Manning's going to have to run for his life, and I mean, just look at these numbers. Just the last 3 weeks alone, they have only given up 16, 20, and 22. Granted, a lot of offenses have put up some points on them, but 4 sacks, 4 interceptions. Yeah, 6 sacks here 3 weeks ago against Detroit. And as you can see here, 4 straight games have at least 12 fantasy points or better. Than averaging 13 fantasy points per game and giving up only 18 points per game to opposition. And the other thing that's impressive is all year long, they've never been in a negative. They've always put up some sort of fantasy points. So at 13 fantasy points, 4,800, hey, pay up for the Chicago Bears. I think they're going to be just all over Eli Manning and the New York Giants. The Giants are going to have to hand off and throw a lot of little short passes to Mr. Saquon Barkley, because he is the best guy they got. Plain and simple. The rookie is the best. And that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you guys a lot of luck. I'll see you guys next week for Week 14 again. I apologize for the NBA for those who are my NBA viewers. I will be back tomorrow with an NBA video for you guys for sure. I usually take Sundays off, but I'm just going to replace today's with tomorrow's. All right? Wish you guys a lot of luck, and I'll see you guys in Week 14.